Well, we'll add that to the C pile. Oh my. All right, over to theater two. The Towering
Okay.
Inferno from 1974, starring Steve McQueen, Paul Newman. Look, the reuniting of Faye Dunaway and William Holden, and directed by John Dillerman. You remember last time we saw William Holden and Faye Dunaway together, Murphy?
Yes, that was the network, wasn't it?
It was the network.
Yes, it was the
Luckily, they
network.
were not a romantic pairing in this particular movie, so they were much better. I enjoyed both of them
Oh, they
much
were the
more in this
romantic pair
movie.
in that movie, weren't they? I kind of forgot who
Yeah.
William Holden was in that movie. I
Yeah.
remember Faye Dunaway, but like William Holden, I did not put two and two together until you actually mentioned that right now. So,
Is
damn.
William
All
Holding
right, well,
Holden the star of our first season though? Because we've seen him three times. Have we seen any other actor three times, or any other director
um,
three times? Because he was also in Bridge on the River, River Kwai. He was the guy who escaped. It has to go
I
back
know.
in.
I'm gonna have to. Yeah, that's something we'll have to review on the last episode and
Okay.
see. That's a
William
good
Holden
question, though.
must
I didn't think of that.
be the
That'd be
star.
interesting.
Be the star of this. He's in a lot of
Let's see what the
movies. That's
trailer
what that
is.
tells you. And some good ones.
Steve McQueen and Paul Newman race against time as one tiny spark becomes a night of
It's a big
blazing
pissing
suspense.
contest between those two for this
The
movie.
towering Inferno.
Mm.
It's out of control. And it's coming your
They're
way.
just like, I want lead billing. No, I want lead billing. I want more lines. No, I want more lines. They eventually got the exact same amount of
Warner
lines.
Brothers
And
20th
Really?
Century
McQueen was
Fox
pissed about
present
that, yeah.
Irwin Allen's production of
McQueen and Newman
The
were like that?
Towering
That's
Inferno.
funny.
Yeah, throughout the entire movie, they were like fucking button heads throughout the whole film.
Steve McQueen.
Dude, this
Paul
film.
That's when men were men, Murphy. Two manly men like that can't get
Fred
along.
Astaire, Susan Blakely,
They can't
Richard
share the
Chamberlain,
lead.
Jennifer Jones, O.J.
Oh, yeah,
Simpson,
Fred
Robert
Astaire's
Vaughn,
that
and
guy.
Robert Wagner. The Towering Inferno.
I can't believe O.J.
We've
Simpson
seen
was in
Robert
this film.
Wagner twice. Our podcast.
So you can stop worrying about me. What
Wasn't
about
Paul
me? 'Cause
Newman
I
in
worry about you.
I'll never let you go anywhere without
Soylent Green?
I'll be back with the whole fire department.
Oh, that scene was so
Oh,
wild.
yeah.
That scene blew my mind. I was like, what the
There's a
fuck?
lot of scenes that are crazy in this movie.
I've never been like,
The
what the
producer of
fuck
the
was
Poseidon
that?
Adventure
So much in the
brings you
movie that
more
I was watching this film.
more stars,
Like,
This
I was
movie is very
all on
70s.
board.
than you've ever seen.
Is
It's
in,
very
like,
70s,
real
but
and
so
gritty.
good.
Steve McQueen
Like,
is
in a
the
good way.
writer.
I mean, that's a good
Paul
thing.
Newman
It's
is
like
the
gritty
architect.
and real.
Step by step, floor by floor. This is a
Like-
race against time to
I
save
think
hundreds of people trapped
70s
in a
was
night
the
of
decade
blazing
were I
suspense
felt like
as the
directors
world's
and
tallest building
filmmakers were like,
becomes the
I don't want it to
Towering
feel like a
Inferno.
movie. I want it to feel
Yeah.
more like you're watching something real at happened. It's an explosion.
The Towering Inferno.
Basically, the final act right there.
Now, this movie
yeah.
was a pleasant surprise. Like, I
Wasn't
didn't think
it,
it was going to
though?
be this good.
Me either. I was
Again,
like,
a bit
okay,
of a slow start, but not unbearingly so. Like on the beach, like I would have said it on the beach held up. If it wasn't for that start. That start just killed it. But this one, it didn't kill it. But we both said the same thing. We both said we weren't really feeling it until the exact same scene, which I think was the scene I picked as my favorite, maybe.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's when the movie takes off, and from there, you're in for a
Yeah,
ride.
no, I
Heart
completely
stopping
agree.
action, man.
I went into this film being like, how good is this like old film about a burning tower gonna be? Um, and the first like 35 minutes, I was like, yeah, nope, this is pretty standard 70s. Yep, nope, trope-ish. get it. And then that one scene where it just kicked off the whole film, and I was like, okay, I can't handle this. I can't handle this, Paul Newman. What are you doing? That is not stable. What are you doing? I was like that for the whole scene, and they just were like, everybody's gonna climb down this
It's great.
like rail.
You expect something to go wrong that entire scene. It's not like one of those scenes where you're like, oh yeah, this is gonna seem like it's gonna go wrong and it won't. That whole time you're like, this is not gonna go good for somebody. And
Somebody's gonna die. I would just and like and it was even.
and
I don't think anybody had died up until at that point in the film either. Technically,
at least you don't see it, maybe.
maybe you don't see it, but I think like the first deaths were like Robert Wagner's character and that secretary, and I think that happens shortly after the explosion because they're done fornicating. Like, oh man, and it was like that. What like it was just like the shock to that shocked, and then there was like you're like, and then there was more shock, and it just didn't stop until the end of the film, and you're
he's
just
like,
like
SteveMcQueen's just done, and he just goes and sits down, and then they just like they want to talk to you, so he gets up and goes and talks to him because he's been up for like the whole fucking night, and they're just like, yeah, you're the only one that's has the qualifications to go back in, so we need you to go back in. And he's just like,
it's
like, but it's just very carefully made as far as the firefighting aspects go. I think that'll
yes.
probably come up in your morsels, but they even thank before the movie even starts. They thank firefighters. They're like, "This is for the firefighter," and then they sort of do that again.
Yeah, no, they like this is A1 the firefighter movie. If there was ever a movie about firefighters, this is the movie about firefighters.
This is the one.
Like,
yeah.
and like
not
the whole
that
time I'm watching
Backdraft movie or whatever, starring Sylvester Stallone or whatever. I don't know.
Or the one that's like
fire,
it stars The Rock, and I think
Stallone.
the most like there's a Rock film that's basically the Towering Inferno, but like there's this big climactic scene where he jumps from one building to another because he's the fucking Rock, you know.
Steve McQueen
and apparently he's like
way cooler than The Rock, and he doesn't go
so
jumping
much
off
cooler.
the building.
Yeah, no, dude, Steve McQueen. Like the moment he entered this film, I was like, this guy rocks. This guy's so cool. I think this is technically I think this is technically my first Steve McQueen film. Like, I don't think I've seen him really in anything that I can remember. What a boss.
I think I've seen him in one prior movie. Is he in Cool Hand Luke?
I don't know.
PaulNewman is. I wonder if they're in that together too. Anyway. But yeah, he was awesome in it. PaulNewman was good in it too.
Let's get into this Wemyss violation of a synopsis.
Yeah.
Let's get into this Wemyss violation waiting to happen, shall we? So yeah, the Towering Inferno.
See, I was out during this first scene because it's just like a 5-minute helicopter ride. The first 5 minutes of this movie is just watching this helicopter. They're like,
yeah. So yeah, Towering Inferno, 1974. Architect Doug Roberts, Paul Newman's character, is returning to beautiful San Francisco for the dedication of the Glass Tower, which is a groundbreaking skyscraper designed for owner James Dunn, who is played by William Holden. Based on the novel The Tower by Richard Martin Stern, obviously this film was, and to those who gave their lives so that others might live, to the firefighters of the world. This picture is gratefully dedicated. So yeah, we start off with a kind of janky shot of the tower. Like you can tell it's like a superimposed image because the tower is kind of shaking with the camera a little bit. Like the two towers in this shot, they shake a little bit with the movement of the camera, because obviously they're not real. But yeah, at a soaring 138 stories and standing 1,800 feet or 550 meters tall, it is the tallest building in the world. However, just for its grand opening, we get introduced to the characters of Newman, who's introduced to his character Faye Dunaway, who he has a relationship with. Fred Astaire's character, who's a con man. He's there to basically get the widower to sign over some money. We're introduced to the kids and their deaf mother.
Here's a little comparison, though. you care more about this little girl and this woman on the right here who ends up looking after her more than anybody in on the beach. And they're not in this movie a whole
Yes.
lot. Like,
I cared about
but
a
that
lot
scene
of
where
people
they're
in
in
this movie
danger, you're
way more.
like, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And they don't even
Like
have to be in it much. They just
fingernails,
feel like
chair,
real
just like I
people.
can't stop watching.
Yeah. And they surprise you. Like there's so many things in movies like while you're watching the scene, you can tell how it's gonna end. In this movie, it's not like that. It throws you for loops all over the place.
Yeah. So basically, the film starts to pick up when an electrical shortage happens in the basement. This basically sets off the
Shitty
fact that their
wiring
system, their shitty wiring, they've got
and
shitty wiring
friggin'
in the system. They don't
cut
got
corners to save
good enough.
costs on your friggin' wiring.
They
Tell
and
you.
they got no. They don't. It's not good enough to what was it like?
Bet you there's
Signal to
asbestos in the
the
walls
emergency
too.
system.
1974.
Betcha.
You bet there was. Half of that building's asbestos.
So yeah.
They got a lot of problems. Those firefighters are breathing in burning asbestos.
So we get this cute little scene between Roberts and Faye Dunaway's character. Roberts gets called down to the building because he becomes suspicious of the building's electrical engineer, Roger Simmons, played by Richard Chamberlain, who is the stepson of William Holden's character, or
And the
son-in-law.
worst. And the
He's
absolute
an absolute
worst.
an absolute cunt.
Oh yeah, and O.J. Simpson. O.J.
Yes!
Simpson's in this movie.
For some out of pocket reason, O.J. Simpson is in this movie. We're not going to talk much about that. So yeah, he happens to be in this film. He saves the cat. That was.
You don't want to talk about how O.J. Simpson's a great hero because he saves the kitty?
I mean, I don't feel like that's a. I mean, he saved.
You
It's
don't want to
probably
talk
the
about
only
the
good
scene
thing he's done in his
where
life.
O.J. Simpson's carrying out an unconscious woman?
It's probably not the first time he's done that. In fact, it's probably definitely not the first time he's done that. So yeah, Roberts becomes suspicious of the building's electrical engineer, Roger Simmons. Believing that he's cut corners during construction, Simmons insists that the building meets all safety standards, but Roberts remains unconvinced. Look at this cunt.
He's the worst.
Anyway, got a gathering of people waiting for the big opening.
He gets his, though.
Friggin'
karma.
Yeah. Does he ever, man? During the dedication ceremony, this is where
there's
we
Fred.
see first. Yeah, Fred Series got his invite to the dedication ceremony. The public relations chief, Dan Bigelow, Robert Wagner's character, turns on all the tower lights to impress the guests and dignitaries. Unfortunately, this causes the electrical system to overload, and Roberts orders the lights to be shut off because he knows the electrical system's getting hot. But all these people,
He's so funny. There's
the promenade.
He's like, what are you doing? They're like, yeah, we're turning all the lights on. He's like, why? Why would you do that? Why are all the lights on? I'm just like, oh, because the rich people wanted us to. He's like, well, stop it. Turn them off. He's like, well, I can't do that unless the rich people tell us to turn them off. And it's just like, well, like, at least turn some of them off. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's like we don't need all the lights. It's like the promenade. Leave the promenade on. Just the place is gonna burn down. And the fire department, they finally got the gist, so they're on their way. And then we get this scene. Okay, this is the one part of the film where I was like,
he dies, so he's the first death.
He's the first death, so he's technically the first death, yes. But I meant to get a screenshot of that closet, and apparently I guess I didn't. But the closet was filled with spray cans, dirty like paint rags. In fact, the power box just blows open and a loose cable lands, and the oil rags catch on fire immediately. And we're talking like bottom to like it's a Wemyss violation waiting to happen. This closet, basically.
This wouldn't pass muster these days.
But the thing that blows my mind is that fire starts early in the afternoon. It's later in the evening at the promenade, and this closet's just been cooking. None of those cans have blown the door open. It's closed. It takes this poor son of a bitch to open the door for it to explode and then thus cause the big fire that ultimately engulfs the whole building.
I get it being a big building and everything, but nowadays, surely if there was a fire in a tower, they would evacuate the whole building pretty much immediately, if not immediately. Whereas in this one, they're like, it's okay, these 80 floors. The fire's only on these 2 floors for now. So you just go about your business. Don't worry about it. We'll let you know if there's a problem. It's just like, really? Is that really how they're doing this?
Yeah, he's like, there's a fire right now. He's like, it's fine. We'll be safe. It's like, no, that's number one. You fire? Okay, we get out of the
Let them
building.
put out the
Nobody gets out of
fire.
the building. Yeah, like
Oh my God.
it's common sense 101. I don't
Just because you don't want to
understand.
disturb people, it's just like they'll be disturbed when they're on fire.
So yeah, the trouble begins when the power surge in the building's massive basement blows a circuit breaker in the basement, and unknown to everyone, the surge blows out another circuit breaker that was on the 81st floor. Like Wemyss would lose their shit at the state of that storage closet. As the fire department is called in to handle the situation on the 81st, Roberts and engineer Will Giddings, played by Norman Burton, attempt to control the situation, and tragically Giddings gets caught in the fire flash and is fatally injured. While Roberts and the fire department try to contain the spreading fire, 294 guests are trapped on the promenade room of the 135th floor. And every time they said promenade, all I could think of was Quark. Every time.
Oh, me too. Deep Space Nine every time. Yeah.
So yeah, Duncan, along with Senator Gary Parker, Robert Vaughn, and Mayor Robert Ramsey, directs the evacuation using the express elevators. However, the fire rapidly escalates, rendering the elevators unsafe. Duncan dismisses the need for an evacuation despite the increasing danger. Simmons admits to cutting corners during construction to stay within the budget, contributing to the severity of the fire. Panic then ensues as the electric fires continue to break out throughout the building, leading to a full-scale evacuation. Tragically, Bigelow and his secretary, Mistress Laurie, Susan Flannery, are killed when they become trapped in Bigelow's 65th floor office. Imagine just being like, they're like, did you leave a smoke running? And they like open the door and it's engulfed. And I feel like the first moment they had opened it, the fire wasn't that bad. Maybe they could have gotten through it, but they just kind of like pulled back and hung out and made it let it get worse. And they died for it. He's like, it's okay, I'm a 100-foot runner. He covers himself in wet towels, and then he runs directly into a chair and like catches himself on fire and like runs around on fire and then just falls to his death off of like that. And then she eventually like catches on fire and books it out the window and just dies herself. And you see this like flaming person falling from and I'm watching this and I just instantly got brought back to 2011 and I thought about like 9/11 and just like all the shit that happened in September and all the things I saw. I was just like, whoa. So then I couldn't get that mentality out of my mind, and I'm just like, this is weirdly prophetic, you know.
This is both movies we've seen Robert Wagner in this podcast. He's played the same arrogant fool, like same with his character in the Pink Panther. Maybe that was his thing. Oh, here comes OJ to save the day. I feel so much better now.
Yeah. He's just dragging out an unconscious woman and the kids, and they're like, where's the little sister, which I thought about too, and eventually Robert saves him. So yeah, Simon's missed cutting corners during construction, stay within budget, contributing to the severity of the fire. I read this. As Robert's security chief, Harry Jennigan. Yeah, as Robertson's security chief, Harry Jennigan, rescue a family from the 80th floor, they become stranded due to collapsed stairwell. They must make a perilous climb up the promenade room to safety. This is your favorite scene, basically. Yeah.
So the movie takes off and becomes an awesome friggin' movie.
As soon as I heard the gas, I was like, that's not good.
Gas line, get back.
Yes,
and then it just goes.
Yeah, no time to react. And this twist of pipes is so weird that he's shimmying down. Like, this is slick that he actually made.
Yeah. It's... Like, I'm watching this, I'm like, that's gonna break. That's gonna break any minute. Yeah. What's he gonna do, you know? Obviously, we can't play the whole scene, but, you know...
Yeah, but that scene goes on, and the little boy goes down first. And then...
Yeah, he saves the kid, eventually gets...
He goes back up and brings the little girl down. And then he...
Which, when he goes back up, I was like, surely he can't climb back up that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Does it, and I was like, oh my god, I was so tense. And they could have
Yeah.
really sold that scene if they had just like had the widower's shoe had fallen off and they showed an overhead and the shoe bounce off the corridors. Like that would have just been the cherry on top of that whole scene for me personally.
The only thing
They
I don't like about
interject
that
this.
scene, the only thing I don't like about that scene is it kind of shows its 70s morality, let's say, where it's like, of course, this 10-year-old boy can do it, but surely an adult woman can't come down this thing. Like, she's a woman.
She's a
She would be
widower,
far
so
too
she's supposed to
afraid.
be in her
I
in her
know, but
ages. But yeah, it was a little tropish. It was definitely 70s, but was it terrifying to watch?
on the beach
Yes.
was worse for it though, because like one of the characters in that, Ava Gardner's character, actually pulls the Uhura line from Star Trek. Frightened. I'm so frightened.
I loved how they kind of broke up the length of the stairwell scene by like showing people leaving and getting ground floor. And the whole time I'm seeing
Mm.
this scene, I'm like, these people are gonna sue the hell out of this guy. This is a lawsuit waiting to happen. Um, and yeah, and then it just continues with the chaos of these guys. Like, oh, we have to like get up there. Um, there's the deaf woman who was saved by O.J. Simpson. I thought she was gonna die in this scene too. I was like, she's gonna slip and fall.
Because
Like
of
she's
OJ
too
Simpson.
terrified.
No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
exactly.
No. No,
She
but she
didn't
makes it. That's
have the
what's crazy.
glove.
Exactly. Like someone was gonna die in this scene. You thought for sure it was gonna be her, and no, they all make it, which I like. I like that you don't have to have
Yeah.
a sacrificial lamb to make a scene have weight. They just they just made the tension, and that's all, and made it believable. It was great.
Yeah, and they never let up with the tension. Like you think every scene they would introduce would be like, okay, it's just a little breather, but no, it's like, oh, this is an introduction to a new tension I didn't know. This is an introduction to a new fear I didn't
Hmm.
realize I needed to have. We get introduced to these two
Hmm.
firefighters who are just climbing the building. Eventually, the stairwell breaks below them, like another stairwell explosion. So they're like, the only way is up, so let's keep going. Um,
It's true what they
with the
say in
fire
this movie,
suppression.
though. You never want to live above the seventh floor in any building.
Hmm.
It's
With the
a
fire
lot.
suppression efforts becoming ineffective, the building loses all electrical power. Uh, this scene blew my mind because they thought they were going to get to a door, but there was just like uh, a a bucket of cement poured in front of the door, and it was hardened, and they couldn't get through it. And I'm like, who lets this much cement just dry? Who doesn't clean that up immediately? So they had to that was like they couldn't just open the
Could have
door, and it
been,
led to this
uh,
kind of
who knows? Could have been every part of the fire because of the fire. I don't know. Melting
Maybe
some
there was
concrete.
like
I don't know.
yeah, maybe there was a wheelbarrow of wet concrete just sitting in the stairwell, and then the explosion knocked it over. But like it dried,
Yeah,
like that
maybe.
was wrong. I don't know.
It was weird. Yeah.
Let's not. Yeah, we won't get into the weeds of it. But yeah, we get this scene where the fire guys are having to rappel down, and this one firefighter is like, "I can't do it. I'm too afraid." And McQueen's character's like, "Good, you're going first, because we don't want you falling on us. If you fall, you're gonna go
Because
first."
you're going.
Yeah, you're going. So yeah, basically, the rooftop. They're trying to get to the rooftop, and a helicopter
Yeah.
shows,
To
and
blow the tanks. They want to blow the water
yeah.
tanks, which
Well,
has
no,
enough water in it, they think, to
that's
put
not
out the
yet.
fire.
No,
No.
that's at the end. This is the
Yeah.
scene basically is they they run a lottery to see who gets to go on the helicopter ride, and all the women and children basically go first. And Steve McQueen's telling these women, wait for the helicopter to land, and then these two women just run up onto the helipad as the chopper's coming down, and it loses control and blows up. And I'm just like, what the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? What just happened? I was so
Yes.
shocked by
Madness.
the chaos
Madness.
of that scene, and I had no idea where this film was going to go after this point. I was like, what are they going to do? Um, the rooftop rescue attempt fails when the helicopter crashes, setting the roof ablaze and preventing further rescue attempts from above. Um, and the Navy rescue team set up breacher's buoy between the glass tower and the adjacent peerless building to evacuate guests. Faye Dunaway and the women that were supposed to go on the
Pretty slick,
helicopter are
actually.
Yeah, the women on the helicopter
so many
are ordered to go down the
ingenious
elevator.
methods they come up with to save people in this, and I just wondered while watching them if it's real. Like I can't imagine here that ever happening. I'm like, there's no way if there was a fire here, they would rig this up. Like rig
I
up this
mean,
wire
they
with this bucket. Like I don't know. It just seems like so innovative and prepared for the
it's
time.
a scenario
I mean,
that they're prepared
it's a big
for if they
city
can't
though.
get them down and they can't get them off from the top. Like a,
Mm.
bu- what's it called again? A buoy, uh, something. I'll read it again at some point. Breacher's buoy. That's what it's called.
Mm.
Anyway, yeah, we get this also the scene where the women and the children were put into the only working elevator with this really beautiful shot fade done away. But that's going well until a fire explodes and it gets like knocked off its rails. At which point, the widower, who had saved the children and gone through the freaking crazy stairwell scene, gets knocked out of the elevator and falls to her death.
That was crazy. I did see sort of the elevator thing come. As soon as I got on the elevator, I was just like, "Oh, you don't want to be on that elevator." I just like, I
Yeah,
was just like, it didn't seem like it was going to be a super smooth ride for that elevator
the big
because it
glassy
was getting
elevator. It's like no.
sketchy. The fire was spreading at that point, and you're just like, "Really? This is they really think this entire elevator shaft is fine, eh? All right, go for it." But it was the
Yeah.
external, it's the scenery elevator. It was interesting.
So yeah, basically that thing breaks. So McQueen's character Roberts, they basically devises a gravity brake for the external scenic elevator to evacuate some passengers. He gets in a helicopter and they fly him up, and he hangs basically.
That's crazy. He's just
Yeah. So
dangling from a helicopter.
while
He's
this
so
buoy
badass.
thing is
Steve
happening.
McQueen is the most badass firefighter of all time.
So you got these helicopter guys like taking in Steve McQueen to go save these people in the elevator, while the other firefighters are like booing people from the higher building to the lower building in like a one-man chair, basically. So they get to do it one at a time. They got to pull the thing down and then pull it back and then pull it down. It's like that's a lot of work. That's a lot of people up there. There's still a couple hundred people up there, and you're looking at like a 10-minute trip, basically. Um,
Yeah, they say they
so
need a bit over 3 hours to get everybody.
Yeah, the daughter goes on and says goodbye to the father and all that stuff. Yeah, McQueen basically attaches the to the elevator at this point, and yeah, I was just like, okay, how is he? I saw him come in with the blowtorch. I was like, what's he gonna do with that? And he like cuts it free. I was like, oh, I thought he was gonna solder it onto it for some reason. I'm like, I don't think it's gonna hold. But yeah, no, he had like a whole latch system. They were prepared.
It was just like,
Um,
how can this helicopter handle this weight? That seems like a crazy amount of weight.
that's what I was thinking too. Um, that's a question for a resident, airplane expert, Michael
Yeah,
Henry, that we might
true.
have to ask him sometime. He
Yeah,
would
well,
be able
next
to know
time.
if it had the ability to hold something like that. But yeah, he basically saves everybody, brings them down to the ground, and he goes to catch a break, and that's when they're like, "You're not done yet." And he gets the information from this guy who I kind of recognize, but I couldn't put my finger on, and I think he was in MASH, like the old show MASH.
Hmm.
Yeah. Basically, the fire's reached a critical point, and O'Halloran is given the grim truth. There's a risky plan to explode the 1 million-gallon water tanks on top of the building to extinguish the flames. Um, O'Halloran
Guess who
and
gets to do it?
Roberts, yeah, Steve McQueen and Paul Newman. They're
No,
basically
you just
set to,
dangled from a helicopter, but we're not done with you
yeah.
yet.
Well, that's the thing. They actually have to fly O'Halloran up in a helicopter in a heat suit and drop him on the roof so he can get access to the water
Yeah.
tanks. While that's happening, old Cunty McGee decides he's had enough waiting and he begins a chaos fight
Well,
for
he
the
doesn't like
buoy.
his number because he's like 68.
Yeah,
So
he doesn't want
he's a
to wait.
ways back. No.
He wants off this, but by doing that, he
And he
basically
gets
kills two men because they're onto the
yeah,
buoy, and it becomes a fighting struggle.
first he puts together a gang of like 4 other guys that also have shitty numbers. He's like, "Hey, we all got shitty numbers. Let's work together."
Yeah, it's like,
Like,
what is
but
your
you know,
reasoning? You
then they
realize
turn
it's
on
not
each
going to
other like
work.
instantly, which is awesome because they are those kind of shady, weak fuckers, and they would turn on each other. So it's hilarious.
And they all get their comeuppance. They all fall to their freaking death
They
because
do.
they're idiots.
They do.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, we get badass McQueen. He makes it to the roof, and him and Roberts set explosives on the tanks on the 138th floor. And the remaining guests prepare for the ensuing flood. They're all told to tie themselves down as tight as they possibly can. Um, but as they're doing that, the fire engulfs the promenade room. Simmons attempts to take
This is
control of the
tense
breacher's
too,
buoy.
though. Like,
Yeah.
well, they're waiting for the water to come, and they're all just tied down. And there's so many good things in this movie.
Yeah. Simmons, as we said, he falls to his death because he was killed in an explosion. The breacher's buoy comes undone. Um, damn, I kind of wrote things. I should have done a bit of editing here. Anyway, these guys basically they set off their explosions. I like this scene here where these two are going down the stairs, and McQueen's like, "Hang on," gives them some oxygen, puts on the heat, moves the door. He runs past it. Like they get through that like little obstacle. Like I like that scene. They set the timers to 5, and they eventually explode. Everyone's like tied down. And you're just waiting for this thing to go off, and then the scene happens, and it's just like cool. It's just cool.
It's like a delay. You hear the explosion, and it was just like,
Shock a
and like
little,
nothing's happening. It's just like
And then
there's
things
like
start
no
falling.
water. There's like nothing.
But there's also like fire
Yeah.
explosions, and like people who are tied to certain things have to like untie themselves to get away from the
Yep.
fire explosion, which leaves them open
Oh
for like
yeah.
when the waterfall eventually comes down. So yeah,
A
the
lot of
explosions
people are
happen.
killed in this waterfall.
A lot of
fire.
people. Yeah, it successfully douses the flames, but not without significant casualties. Some guests, including the mayor, do not
It's been
survive.
predicted. Paul Newman even says, "Look, if we do this, some of us will make it.
Yeah.
Like not all of us." Like,
Get this cool
oh,
shot of Fred Astaire like pinned down.
yeah.
I like the scene, but there was that Carlos guy. He was like the bartender who wanted to save like the 79 wine LeBlanc. He's like, but it's like the 29 or something, and the Marlboro or whatever, the Picard.
He had a whole case of it. He was just giving it to him from William Holden. Like,
Yeah,
gave him the big
and he
case of
ties
it.
himself like under the bar or whatever, and then all of a sudden like everything happens, and then the statue just swings down and crushes his chest, and he dies needlessly. And I felt bad. I'm like, that didn't need to happen.
And before that, he ties himself to the box of all the wine. And Fred Astaire comes up to him. I think it's Fred Astaire. He's just like, "You're really gonna tie yourself to all that glass?"
Yeah, something like
And he's
that.
just
It's
like,
don't
"Oh,
tie
you're
yourself to all
right."
that
And he like
glass.
unties himself from the.
Well, no, he doesn't. He doesn't. It's
No, he doesn't,
tells him
does
you're
he?
gonna tie
He's just
yourself to
like,
that
yeah.
glass. He pulls it away from him, and he's like, "But sir, that's the 29." Like it was his only like mindset. He was such a bartender. Yeah. So where was I when I read right? So yeah, on the ground, everybody survives. They head back to the ground. Claiborne is heartbroken to learn that Lizalette has died, and Jernigan gives him her pet cat Elkie, whom he holds, tearing up in both grief and in shame at himself. Patty is also grief-stricken by the death of Simmons.
Thank you.
She sees his body. She like finds his body, and Holden's like, "I didn't want you to see that." And then reunited with Susan. This is basically my favorite part, which is the end for the most part, but not all of it. But this is my favorite line in the whole film.
It's the best line in the movie, sure.
Maybe they just ought to leave it the way it is.
It's probably my favorite scene too.
Kind of shrined all the bullshit in the world.
Wrong button. Renee with Susan Doug feels the tower should be left shut down as a shrine to all the bullshit in the world. O'Halloran departs physically and emotionally drained, knowing that they were fortunate enough that casualty toll was less than 200.
All the bullshit in the world, he means rich people.
Yeah. And he's like, one of these days, you architects are going to, talk to us firefighters and talk about how to actually build one of these buildings, because they're going to be death traps. he's right. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, Towering Inferno showcases devastating consequences of compromising safety and the heroic efforts of those who risk their lives to save others in a harrowing disaster that changed the way high-rise buildings were designed.
And the just like the sick nature of the fact that these firefighters and all these people are dying based on the selfish decisions of like one or two people, how
Yeah,
just
yeah. I
it,
saved you millions
the
and you weren't
rate of
complaining to
noise.
me then. It's like,
Yeah.
this
It's
is
like, yeah,
what
but now you're
happens.
killing everybody. Like now everybody's dying and it's your fault. But yeah.
Such a common theme around the
Um,
world.
which performance would you hold up?
Steve McQueen. I mean, even
Steve
Paul Newman
McQueen.
was pretty good too, but like Steve
He
McQueen.
was. And so was William Holden.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, William Holden was all right. William Holden was despicable enough that I didn't like his character. It's just like, yeah, you
exactly.
got yourself into this
But
situation. You're going to be
but
sued
by
out the
the end,
wazoo.
he sort of shows himself to be less despicable than a lot of the other people at his party, where he's just trying to get everyone to work together and like it's all his fault. But once he realizes that he's like just trying to do what the firemen are telling him, and everyone else is just like screw that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Steve McQueen. If it's your introduction to Steve McQueen, which may be mine as well, he looks familiar enough. Anyway, but it might just be clips because he's so famous and he's in a lot of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great introduction to Steve McQueen. I feel like he maybe wasn't going.
Such a legendary, wild movie. Like, I wish I'd
Mm-hmm.
seen it sooner, but I'm glad I watched it now. It's, wow. It was just, I wasn't expecting it to be that good. I was expecting it to be entertaining. I was expecting it to be a 70s film. I wasn't expecting it to be that good. I was like, it's going to be a bit dated.
No,
It's going
no.
to be a
He,
fighters movie, or
yeah,
it's going to be, Fire Blaze. Like, I didn't know what to really expect. I didn't know. I did
me
not.
neither.
The scenes
I
I
didn't know
saw
how
in
they
that
were going to
film,
make
I
a
was
good
just
movie out of this.
jaw dropped. How they're
It's
gonna?
just like
Yeah,
it's just
it's
such
like
a
what?
basic concept. How are you going to make a great movie of this? But they did, and I was wrong. He's not in Cool Hand. Paul Newman is. Um, yeah, yeah, Steve McQueen, man. Setting and aesthetic, it looks amazing. It looks real and gritty, and it pulls you right in because you feel like you're there.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
super
There's
good.
only a few scenes, and it's mostly like the super wide establishing shots of the city, or if there's like mostly like the stairwell scenes, like just those obvious like you can't do this in reality, so you have to use a image behind blue screen or whatever, right? Like you gotta frame it out. So aside from those small pieces where you can sort of see the seams of filmmaking, the rest of the film is just like pulls you in, doesn't let you go, because the sets were all built and all destroyed. I think they
That
said there
tower
was
looks like
like,
it's on fire. Looks like a
yeah,
tower on fire.
well, it's it was mostly miniature towers, but they
Yeah.
were actually on fire. I think it was I think there was like something like 20 sets built, and by the end of it, only 8 of them were left standing.
Just immersive quality of like the setting and the aesthetic is what On the Beach needed. Like you needed to
Mm,
feel like you were there waiting for the end and on the beach, and it never really achieved that.
yeah, it
Like
was just on the
in
shore.
it's on the shore. Uh, yeah. Well, let's you get some morsels for us.
So, movie morsels for the Towering Inferno, 1974. 1,000 real firefighters were hired throughout the entire production, and
Wow.
60 stunt people performed more than 200 stunts in this film. Um, this
You're
film
some
marked the
serious stunts.
first. There were
Whoever
some
Paul
serious
Newman was
stunts.
shimmying down that thing, that dude is an
That was
acrobat.
Paul Newman.
No, it wasn't. What?
That's one of my movie
Wow.
morsels. Yeah.
Wow.
This film marked the first joint production by two major studios, Warner Brothers and the 20th Century Fox. Steve McQueen did most of his stunts for the film, including having 7,000 gallons of water dumped on him in the climactic final attempt to put out the fire. Sean Connery, Rod Taylor, and Charlton Heston were considered for the role of Chief O'Halloran. This would have been a very weird movie with
Heston
Sean
was in a lot of those
Connery.
movies for sure.
Yeah.
But no,
This is
it was the right
this
choice.
is a casting choice that I wish they had gone with. Carl Weathers auditioned for the role of Jernigan. We
Who's
could have had
Jernigan?
Lando Calrissian. He was the O.J. Simpson's character, the security guard.
Carl Weathers didn't play Lando Calrissian. That's Billy D. Williams.
Oh, wait.
Carl Weathers played Apollo Creed.
Right. Right. That's right. Right. Because, sorry. Yeah, no. Yeah. I was thinking.
Carl Weathers was in Predator. He's the other hand in the big handshake.
Yeah, that's right. And he's also in The Mandalorian. So that's where my Star Wars got crossed over. But yeah. Anyways, I would have preferred Carl Weathers as the security officer over O.J. Simpson, just under principle alone.
Me too. Me too.
Okay, so yeah, according to Joe Musso, he had been the staff member to suggest killing off Carlos in the movie. Carlos was originally written in the script to survive, but Musso pointed out that killing off a more major character would create the impression that Irwin Allen had fallen into a trope of killing off the hero in all of his movies. Carlos was chosen because he was a lesser supporting character who happened to be the most sympathetic character in the film next to Lizette, who herself was already written to die in a tragic elevator fall scene, which still shocked me. The largest set constructed for the movie was the promenade deck, as all promenade decks are. The site of the party on the 135th floor, it covered a total area of 11,000 square feet and was 25 feet high and enclosed by a 340-foot cloth painted to resemble the San Francisco skyline. So it was like a painted background. The set was around 10 feet off the ground to allow the water in the climax to be drained off, and also gave a sense of height to the shots of people being forced throughout the windows. And the set cost $300,000 in the 70s. So,
Still though, they achieved a lot with that.
They got a lot out of that, yeah. After seeing this film, novelist Roderick Thrope had a dream that Roderick Thrope had a dream that same night about a man being chased through a skyscraper by gun-wielding assailants. This was the inspiration for his 1979 book, Nothing Lasts Forever, which eventually was made into the film Die Hard in 1988. Against Irwin's strenuous objections, Steve McQueen insisted on doing the stunt where he leaps off a helicopter onto the top of a burning building. PaulNewman did most of his own stunts, including climbing up and down the bent stairwell railing.
Well, he had to if they were having a pissing contest the entire. As soon as one of them does a stunt, the other guy has to do a stunt.
Yeah, like it makes sense now.
Mm-hmm.
During filming, an actual fire broke out on one of the sets, and Steve McQueen found himself briefly helping real firefighters put it out. One of the firefighters not recognizing
At least they had
McQueen,
1,000 firefighters there to deal with the problem.
Yeah, one of the firefighters not recognizing McQueen said to the actor, "My wife is not going to believe this," to which McQueen replied, "Neither's mine." The movie premiered on December 16th, 1974. It won 3 Academy Awards: Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, Best Song with We May Never Love Like This Again. It was also nominated for Best Picture Supporting Actor in Fred Astaire. Okay, so he wasn't
it for Best Picture. Jeez.
Yeah, he was nominated for Best Pictures. Like Fred Astaire was nominated for Best Picture for Supporting Actor in this film, and not the other one, which I thought he did a far.
He didn't even do a lot in this one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He didn't do that much in this film, but he got like the nomination. Like if he was like he did a better acting in the other film. It's wild. Art direction and music by John Williams, and sound, it made over 100 million on its domestic run alone. And the last two morsels here. Desperate to capture a truly surprised reaction from the cast, Irwin Allen actually fired a handgun into the ceiling without warning the actors, who were understandably surprised. The trick worked, and he got his shot. And the final movie morsel, which I love, and is a little nod to our sister podcast. The matte painting of the San Francisco skyline was later reused in the background of Kirk's apartment in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan in 1982 and Star Trek III: The Search for Spock in 1984. Cinematography by Fred J. Konekamp, and Joseph Burrock. Edited by Carl Kress and Harold F. Kress. Music by John Williams. Released on December 16th, 1974, with a runtime of 165 minutes, a budget of $14 million, with a box office of $203.3 million. It was a box office success for The Towering Inferno.
It lost to Godfather Part 2 for Best Picture that year. I'm more of a Part 1 man, but Godfather Part 2 is a great movie. But you know what? I like this movie better than Godfather Part 2.
Would you believe I've never watched the Godfather films?
Andre said the same thing to me. And he's a big film buff. He's seen everything, but he's never seen The Godfather. And to me, it's the best movie ever made. Maybe we'll have to add it to the gangster one, because if you haven't seen it, you have to watch The Godfather. You make me watch anime, you're watching The Godfather for 3 hours.
Maybe we should get Andre in on that episode so he can watch it too. Two birds with one stone.
We already have Eamon in on that one, I think. But we'll see. How his internet's doing.
Maybe we'll have to bump him for somebody with a little more reliable internet connection.
Oh, we can't do that. All right. Well, rewatchability, yes. I think this is the kind of movie I want to show other people. I'm like, you got to watch this. I'll watch it with you. Like, let's do it.
Yeah, I would put this movie on during like a party or something, like just as
not a
like
party movie.
Background image.
House Party and The Towering Inferno, two best party movies of all time.
Like it could be. I don't know. It's just a great film. I would absolutely rewatch this. Wow. I was just shocked with how good this film was. Like Adam Woodward picked this film, and it was a great pick.
No, he didn't. I did. He just didn't
did
change any of my picks. Yeah, I picked both of these.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
he's like, no, I like your picks. I said, all right.
All right, cool. That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, then, good picks. Great pick. Made up for on
the beach. Yeah. I had to take credit for it because or else I was just the lowly on the beach guy this episode, and that's not who I was here. Okay. Does it hold up? Yes, it does. Go watch The Towering Inferno. Just do it. It's a good 3 hours to commit your life to.
It's not even 3 hours. It's like
it's like 3 hours and 14 minutes. I think it's over 3 hours, isn't it?
No,
it's
like
pretty long.
I feel like it was the shortest of the films that we watched. Let me just take a look.
Greenland was the shortest.
No, Greenland was the shortest. Yeah, this was...
Yeah, for sure it was.
2 hours and 44 minutes long.
Yeah, basically 3 hours. Yeah, it holds up. Go watch it.
Yeah, absolutely hold up. Watch that film.
It's pretty much a must watch.
Probably one of my top 10 favorite films, I think.
Wow. It is great. I'm not going to argue with that. I don't know if I'm going to rank it that high for me, but you know what? We're going to do a season end episode roundup, and we'll see how we feel about these movies in the grander context. All right. Well, let's move over to Theater 3. Why don't we?